So thank you. Renata asked me to give some impressions from the conference, particularly from the group of people that have worked in a few different meetings to come up with a statement from this conference and from the membership of IFS on the issue of worldwide migration, immigration, and refugees. And so first I want to give a few impressions, and then I'll share what the working group will do next. And these are just a few of the themes that we heard in many, many presentations this week. The first is that the language we use makes a difference. And so we're going to try to be very thoughtful about the language so that we avoid a paternalistic type of words and dehumanizing words and exclusionary words that make people feel like them instead of we. So we've struggled with words, are we using integration, inclusion, acculturation, participation, and we will keep struggling with that as we come up with a statement. We also will struggle with, are we using the terms refugees or immigrants or migrants? And one of our ideas is to use the word neighbors and to move away from the experience of the movement across the world and talk about what's happening in our communities. And so we'll continue to struggle with language, as I know we all will. It's a very important theme this week. Another theme that we've talked about in several different workshops is that this work it has to be two-way work. I've heard that phrase several times, and I think what people are saying is that it's wonderful to be able to respond to the human suffering in our communities and to the people in immediate crisis, to people who are new to our new neighbors. But our work is also with the current residents and the economic suffering, the racism, and the disempowerment and alienation that our old neighbors might be feeling. And that our work will not be successful if we don't work in two ways and across communities. That was a very powerful theme, and obviously we need to work on issues of xenophobia, racism, and exclusion within what we might call the receiving communities or the host communities, the old neighbors. And then a third theme that I think is very hopeful and powerful is that while the issues are extremely complex and the needs that people talked about in their communities that they're working on are wide-ranging, we in the Settlement House movement are particularly poised to be able to address complexity because we ourselves are complex and multifaceted. And so just to describe that a little bit more, we've heard that people who are coming into communities, they need practical help, jobs, housing, language, new language access, legal assistance. People need family services for their children, for teenagers. People need mental health and trauma-informed care. People need participation in community building and meals together and neighbors. People need recognition of their strengths and a way to participate and build their leadership. And some of the biggest obstacles in these situations in our various countries are that the regulations, the laws, and the environment of our political systems creates obstacles for true equity. And so on all of these levels, there is a need for action. Practical, family, health, community building, recognition and leadership, and the political or legislative or regulatory areas. Settlement houses work in all of these areas. That's the good news. I think there's a lot of good news that we are the right actors to participate in this human story, and that we should. So the working group has made a few commitments. The first commitment is to come up with a statement from this conference. And we will be trying to articulate what we believe, but also what the challenges are, what we have to offer, and a call to action. We hope that this statement will be something that all IFS members can use in your local sphere and in your national sphere with your own governments, but also that it brings the feeling that there is the entire world behind you as you do that in your own nations, because each nation has its own context and each locality has its own context for this advocacy. We can also take that to our relationships in the UN. We hope that we will have a good draft in the next 4 weeks, and we hope to share that out with the full participation of the conference for any responses and feedback. And then beyond the statement, we would like to have a catalog of our very best practices on the IFS website. Part of that will be collected by collecting the workshop presentations from this conference, but there are many of you who didn't do presentations, but you have very, very excellent work to share. And so we'll try to encourage you to send in your descriptions of your best projects so that we can share that all on the IFS website. That project will probably take a little longer. And we have a really wonderful working group of about 15 people from, I would say, maybe 10 different nations at least, who've participated this week. And I just want to say thank you, and maybe we can give ourselves a hand for that. And I think the final thing that I just wanted to remind everyone is that, like we heard in the presentation from Vancouver yesterday morning, and I know that we've done our own study in New York, it is absolutely the case that the way that we do our work in neighborhood centers and settlement houses produces a sense of belonging, a sense of efficacy, I can do it, and a sense of possibility or hope or aspiration. I know the folks in Vancouver, they studied it, they asked the question. I know that we've studied this in New York and we've gotten the same answer. We know what this work does. It produces hope, which is the most important. And lastly, I just want to say that it's been amazing to have IFS in New York, and I will miss it, but it goes to the home of my grandmother, Finland, so I know we will still be close.